there, Rayanne at Trailblazer RV, and today I'm going to take you through a new RV orientation on a SportTrek Touring 333 VFK. We'll start here at the front of the unit. Under this propane cover, you're going to find two 20-pound propane bottles. We have already filled these bottles. Now, if you'll notice, in the sight glass on the regulator here, you can see that it's red. When I open the bottle, that sight glass is going to turn to clear. So right now, the regulator is selected to this bottle. So what's going to happen is the systems are going to draw propane off of this bottle. Once this bottle is empty, this sight glass is going to turn back to red. The regulator is automatically going to switch over and start draining off of this bottle. Once that happens, you can take the regulator and switch it over to this bottle. At that point, you can remove this tank, take it to go get refilled, and that way you won't have to turn off the propane to the system to do that. Behind that, you're going to find your battery. This is a standard 12 volts flooded lead acid battery. So you've got one wire going to the positive, it's your red, and to the negative is the black wire. Now on this battery, there is some maintenance that you will have to do. Under these two caps, you're going to find 3 cells under each. If you pop these caps off a couple times a year and just check the fluid levels in the battery, as that battery charges, the water is going to evaporate off that battery, and every few months or so, you'll need to top those levels of water up with distilled water just to keep the battery in proper working order. Behind that, you'll also see a battery disconnect switch. Now right now it is selected to the green, meaning we have power running through the trailer from the battery. If you're going to store the battery or the RV for any time, switch it to the red or the off position. That's going to keep anything in the system that's on constantly, like your detectors, stereo memories, that sort of thing, from draining the battery down. This unit also has a power tongue jack. There's a little light on there to help with hitching up in the dark. Simple operation for extend and retract with the buttons. If you ever do happen to lose battery power, there is also a way to manually crank it. Just remove this cap on the top. In your front storage compartment, you're going to have a crank handle. You'll just put it on the little nut in there and crank it up or down as needed. Just always make sure to replace the cap on the top when you're done doing that, as there is a seal in there that keeps water from getting in the jack and ruining all the mechanisms. So around this side of the trailer, you have the gate valve for your galley tank. This is going to be the gray tank for your kitchen sink. So when you're dumping this, just pull the valve, allow the water to drain, shut the valve, and put the cap on before moving on. Right here you are going to find 2 ports. The first one is your city water connection, and the second is your black tank flush. If you're at a campsite that has water available, you can hook your hose up to the city water connection. We always recommend using a drinking water safe hose just to eliminate the rubbery hose taste in the water. You're going to get a little bit of a cleaner tasting water that way. Also, when hooking up to the city water, make sure you're always using a water pressure regulator. The system in the RV is only rated for about 50 psi of pressure, and you may find that some campgrounds the pressure is either higher than that or inconsistent. That pressure regulator is going to make sure you don't end up with leaks in your water system from too much water pressure going through. The one next to that is your black tank holding flush, or black holding tank flush. When using this, once you have dumped the black tank, but while the valve is still open, you're going to hook a hose up to here. We recommend using a different one than your freshwater drinking hose, just because it is going into your black tank. With the valve open, run the water through here for a few minutes. What that's going to do is clean off the inside of the tank and keep the probes on your monitor panel reading properly. above that, you have your water heater. So a couple things you need to be aware of in the water heater. This is a gas electric water heater, meaning you can run it off either propane or electricity if you are plugged in. If you are going to run it off of electricity, you need to take note of this switch down here in the bottom left-hand corner. There is an on-off switch. In order for the unit to run off of electricity, that switch needs to be in the on position. Now we generally leave it in the off position just to reduce the risk of accidentally firing that water heater up without water in the tank, as it can cause damage to the electrical element in there. Above that, you're going to see two black buttons that say push to reset. These are an over limit in case you do fire that water heater without water in it. These resets will likely pop. If that happens, you can just come out here, push the little grommets in. There will be a little button behind there that'll click in, and your water heater should start working properly. Last thing to note on the water heater is down in the bottom here. This is your sacrificial anode rod. It acts as the plug for the water heater, but also once you pull that out, you're going to find a rod on there about that long. And what's going to happen is the minerals and impurities in the water are going to eat away at this rod rather than erode the lining of your tank. Once that rod gets down to just the center core, it's going to be about the thickness of the ink insert in a pen. Then you need to replace it. Up until then, it is going to look a little corroded, but nothing to worry about there. Just before you do plug or pull this plug, we do recommend you open the pressure relief valve here, just to relieve the pressure off of the water tank. It is pressured up to about 50 psi, and if you pull the plug with that closed, you're going to get quite the shower. Down here, you are going to find your black and gray holding tank dump. So this gray tank is going to be for your bathroom fixtures, your sink and your shower there. So when dumping this one, the large valve is your black tank and the smaller valve with the gray handle is your gray tank. Always dump the black tank first. We have supplied the sewer hose for you in the bumper. So you're going to hook that onto the end, dump your black tank, use the black tank flush as I had mentioned before. Once you've shut that black tank flush off, you're going to close the valve for the black holding tank and then open the valve for the gray. What this is going to do is allow the water from the gray tank just to clean out any of the extra black waste that may be in the end of the pipe or in your dump hose. Around this side of the unit is where you're going to find your fresh water connection. If you're not going to have city water available where you are, this is where you're going to fill the fresh tank. So just take your drinking water safe hose and put it into this port, which will fill your fresh tank. We do also recommend you get a little tank filler nozzle. It's just going to make it a little bit easier. This opening is approximately the same size as the end of your hose. So sometimes if you're not using the filler nozzle, you may have to stand here and hold the hose into place. The filler nozzle just makes that a little bit easier. Down below that, you're going to find your drain for the fresh tank. So right now the fresh tank is empty. We've left the valve in the closed position. When you want to fill it, just close that valve and that's going to allow the water to stay on board. This unit also does have power stabilizer jacks. They do operate independently, so you can adjust the length. Each one is extended using these jacks. You'll have two switches on the front for the front jacks as well. The unit will also come with a manual crank that you can crank these down or up if you happen to lose power. Behind that, you're also going to find the spare tire. While the unit does come with a spare tire, it does not come with a tire wrench or jack. So just important to note, it's not a bad idea to pick up a star wrench just in case you do need to change the tire. The jack that comes with the tow vehicle is generally enough to lift the trailer. This unit does have two awnings. The main awning, just basic power switch on there. It'll just extend and retract. The second awning to note, there is, once we go inside, I'll show you, there is an on-off control for this awning. It does have a built-in wind sensor, so if you want the wind sensor active, make sure to leave that switch in the on position. This is also a one-touch awning, so whereas the first awning you're going to have to press and hold the button to extend it, this awning you can just touch the extend once, it will go out all the way. Touch retract once, it will come in all the way. If you do want to stop it without extending it the full way, as we've done here, as we had a unit parked next to us recently, you can just turn that switch into the off position. The unit also comes equipped with an outside kitchen. In that outside kitchen is a little 2-burner stove. To connect that 2-burner stove, you're going to find your quick connect hoses in here. To connect that, you're just going to pull back the ring on the end of the quick connect, slide that onto the port on the stove, and then pull the ring forward again to lock into place. You'll notice there is a valve on here. You will need to open that valve to get the flow going. I saw it before the slide with me. So the other end is going to operate the same way. Slide the connection back, push that into the port, pull to lock in, and then again open the valve. That way you're going to have the flow. Now this hose that we have is too short to reach, but there is a second hose you can connect onto here just to allow it to reach when the slide is out. In this unit, you also have the outside sink. Now this is not connected into any of your holding tanks. So down below here, there is a plug for the drain. So if you want to fill the sink, you can just put that plug in. When you want to drain it, just remove the cap. Last thing in the outside kitchen is your bar fridge. The only thing to note on this is it will only work when the RV is plugged in. This fridge does not have propane capabilities. All right, let's go inside. All right, so just inside the door, you're going to find most of the controls for your unit here. You have your two main slide switches here for in and out. Your main light switches are all here. These lights will control your awning light and your porch light. So the first awning, the main awning that I was talking about, this is the one that you will have to push and hold the button in to bring it in. And the second slide awning is going to be this one. Right now we have it in the off position. I'm just going to put it into on, press retract once, and you're going to notice this awning is going to come in without having to hold the button. Again, just remember the on-off switch. If you do want the wind sensor functioning, make sure you leave that in the on position. Also, here is your thermostat to control your furnace and air conditioner. To run the furnace, you're just going to turn it to heat, adjust the lever to whatever temperature you want to run it at. When you do that, the fan is going to kick in. It's the quietest furnace I've ever heard in this unit, so you may not hear that fan. But that fan is going to run for about 15 to 20 seconds before the furnace tries to ignite. I just heard it now. So the furnace has ignited. When you go to shut that off, we'll just shut it off there. What's going to happen is that fan is going to run again for another 45 seconds to a minute just to go through another purge cycle. The burner will go out immediately though. To run the air conditioner, you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to turn the system to cool and set your temperature. You're going to hear the air conditioner fan come on. It's gonna cool to whatever temperature again you have the thermostat set at. The third function from here is just the fan. So what that's gonna do is turn on the fan in the air conditioner, but not the compressor to do the cooling. So that's a good one for just for air circulation throughout the unit. There is also fan controls on here. We normally just leave it in auto. If you do happen to have it in the on position, you may find that this fan will also kick on when the furnace is on, and usually that's not what you're after. Below that, you are going to find the converter. So this is going to be the main power center for the unit. So in this converter, you're going to have your 110 volt fuses and also your 110 volt breakers and also your 12 volt fuses. Now in an RV, it's not uncommon for a fuse to blow. So you'll see in yours, you have only 15 amp fuses. So it's not a bad idea just to carry a few spare 15 amp fuses with you in case you do end up needing them. All right, so back here in the washroom, you're gonna find your monitor panel for your battery, fresh tank, battery which is reading charging as we are plugged in, fresh tank reading empty, black tank reading empty, and gray tanks 1 and 2 both reading empty right now. Also here you're going to find your controls for your water pump. When the water pump is on, that light on the switch is going to be on. This first switch is your switch for the propane water heater. So when you turn that switch on, you're going to notice the fault light here comes on. It's going to take a few minutes for the propane to get into the water heater system, and then it will ignite. When the water heater does ignite, that fault light is going to go off. We'll just give it a second here to let the power through. There you go, fault light's gone off, the water heater is ignited on propane. Also here is your second switch for your water heater on electric. When you're plugged in, just turn that switch on. Just remember that that switch on the outside of the water heater also needs to be on for that to work. The other thing to point out in the bathroom is this outlet here. It's your GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter outlet. This outlet's going to be the same as in your bathrooms in your house, but in an RV the difference is most, if not all, of your outlets are going to be tied into this same circuit. So if you happen to notice that none of your outlets are working, it's likely that this GFI has tripped. Just come in here, push the reset button, your green light's going to come back on, and then you should have power to your outlets again. The other thing just in the washroom we like to point out, with the toilet, it is important to only ever use RV safe toilet paper and also a holding tank chemical. Now the chemical will come in a liquid, powder, or tablet form. It doesn't matter which one you use as long as you're using something. So every time you dump the holding tank, once you've done that, we recommend you come into here, put a new charge of the chemical in the toilet. You're going to depress the pedal about halfway just to fill the toilet bowl, because that chemical will need some water to activate. Once it's filled, you can step on the toilet all the way down and flush the new charge into the tank. Last thing to point out back here is your carbon monoxide propane alarm. So that alarm is going to have 3 functions. It's going to, number 1, alert you of a carbon monoxide situation. It's going to alert you of a propane leak. And the third and most common time that alarm is going to go off is if the unit has a low battery. There is going to be a distinct difference between the low battery alarm and the leak alarm. Just make sure to respect it when that goes off. Alright, next we're going to check out the master bedroom. So in here, you're going to find one more slide control. This one will be the control just for your slide here in the bedroom. So in and out on that one. Pretty simple. The other thing in here is your fireplace. Simple operation on that. That button will turn it on. You can control temperature, the flame. There's a couple different settings, and then there's also a timer if you want to have it on for whatever, couple hours, whatever you want there. It does also produce heat, so this is a good source of electric heat for extra heat in the bedroom if you want. Just again, remember this will only work when the unit is plugged in. Alright, in the kitchen area, you're going to find, first of all, your fridge. To operate the fridge, push the power button here. It's going to come on. We recommend leaving it in auto mode. That way when the unit is plugged in, it will automatically run off of 110 volt power. You can override that to select strictly electricity or propane. Not very often you would want to run on propane if 110 is available, just to conserve your propane or your fuel there. But maybe if you were plugged into a weak breaker or something like that, it may not be a bad idea just to shed that extra power use. Also, you can control temperature here. We usually leave it at 3, but you can adjust up or down as needed. Height above sea level, ambient temperature, all that sort of thing is going to have a little bit of effect on how the fridge cools. Just keep in mind that an RV fridge does take a very long time to cool, so we recommend turning it on at least the night before you're going to load it, and always load it with already cold food. To turn the fridge off, you're just going to push and hold the power button for a few seconds. The green light's going to go off. On your stove, the burners are ignited with a sparker, so just turn to light. You're going to turn the sparker here to click. Again, we're going to have to bleed a little bit of the air off the propane system just to do that. There's the third burner. So burners all light off the sparker. This unit also has an oven. Now the oven does not have a sparker. It's going to be the only pilot light in the unit. So to light the oven, you're going to turn it to pilot on while pushing and holding the button in. You're going to grab your barbecue lighter and hold it right here on the thermocouple. You're going to hold it there for about 30 seconds or so just to heat that up. Once you see the flame, you can go ahead and turn your oven to whatever temperature you want it to run at. Once done using it, you can either turn it back to the pilot on mode and leave the pilot on, or just turn it off and relight the pilot the next time you go to use it. One more fireplace in the living area. This is going to be the same fireplace as it was in the bedroom, so you can use it again for extra heat. And that's about it for the SportTrek Touring 333. Thanks for watching, and if you have any other questions, feel free to contact us here at Trailblazer RV, or you can check us out online at www.trailblazerrv.com.